mountain men wanted to be free. There was this freedom out in the wilderness. You were free from the society and the hustle and bustle of the East, and a lot of men just went out and lived off the land. And that was one of the whole big draws of being a mountain man, was you were self-sustaining. Basically, this kit I have, I can survive quite a long time as long as I've got my powder dry and I've got caps to shoot. I can hunt. I have, basic tools. I have a knife. They had pocket knives back then. This is an actual knife from back then. So, really sharp, super sharp knife. One of my favorite things is this tomahawk that I had made. You'll probably learn how to throw these, but they throw really well. And I've done some practicing, but I'm up to about 30 feet now.
Can you hit
and I
that
can
tree?
hit my target. But the interesting thing about throwing these is you hold the blade flat to your target, and then when you throw, you step and throw.
That's good.
But this is actually a period pattern. I went ahead and did some tack art and threw some leather on it, just to kind of personalize it for myself. But the idea behind this shape was so that you could grab your target, pull him in, and stab him.
Oh yeah, I love doing that with my brothers. We have like Nerf weapons.
But that's why it's hooked. I'm going to bypass actually grabbing a cartridge. We're just going to load powder tonight. But the steps are, you would have a cartridge box on, and it would be, the first step would be load, and you would drop your weapon down by your left foot and bring the center of the muzzle in line with your body, right? And then you drop your left hand down as far as it'll go comfortably. You're going to hold it there. Then you're going to grab a cartridge, and you're going to bring it to your mouth, and you would tear it and bring it to the muzzle of the gun, tip it up, squeeze the powder out, squeeze the ball out because the ball is lubricated. So it's got those rings in the bottom of it. Those rings had grease in it. It would help the bullet slide down into the barrel a little quicker. And then you'd put your pinky on the ramrod. This is the ramrod. That way the officer could look down the line of 1,000 men in either direction, and he could tell that everybody had charged their weapon. Then he would say, draw a ramrod. So you would draw your ramrod, and you would bring it to the muzzle of the rifle. And then he would say, ram cartridge. So then you would bring it up, down, tap, tap, and then return rammer. And then you bring it up, bring it down, and pinky back on it.
So they would put it back in every time?
The first time. So when they're loading, getting ready to go, they do all these so that the officers can look down the line and they can see who's loaded, who's not, who's got troubles with their guns. So then the next command would be prime. So you bring your weapon up, and as I bring my weapon up, they would bring it to the lock plate, and they would keep these really shiny, and they would hope the sun would be shining on them, so that the sun would reflect off of the lock plate into the eyes of the enemy. And you bring it around slowly, as if to say, "We're about to kill you," because that's really what the design of the movement was to bring it up and say, "We're getting ready, but we're not kidding." And then you bring the weapon down.
Oh, you know what? I'm not counting at all.
Bring the hammer back to half cock. You reach into your cap box and you bring out a brand new cap. And you seat that on there. And when you're done doing that, then you bring the weapon back up to what's called shoulder arms. And again, the officer can see that everybody's ready to go. And then the command is ready. So everybody brings their weapons up. And at the command ready, everybody does the final cock. So there's a half cock and then a full cock. it's amazing to sit on a battle line with thousands of guys front, alongside of you and behind you, and everybody cocks their weapons at the same time. It's just one of those magic moments where you go, oh, okay, I'm here.
Oh, the chills.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, this is going to be good. So then your weapon's up, and then it's ready, aim, fire.
Yeah.
It's a cap gun. That's it.
It's a cap gun. Pow, pow, pow.
5 grains of double F black powder. There's different grades of black powder. Single F, double F, triple F, 4F. 4F is what they use to charge a pan on a flintlock or pistols.
So
3F
is 4 the best?
It's just the fineness of the grade. So yeah. So the finer it's milled, the higher the greater the number of Fs. That's how they designate black powder. So we're just going to take this charge and we're going to dump that down the barrel. And we're going to put a cap on it. And who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
What card? I put it in my top.
Aim it out across the field.
No, you move, Bradley.
Back all the way and pull the trigger.
Someone left the door open in my history class today. My teacher's like, way to go. You could have killed. You could have gotten everyone in this class. I told myself, but shoot him and shot up the class. And I was like, yeah. Like, just get the bullet. We'll shoot it on the couch. Like a bullet on the, and then we'll be the whole. I'm going to try everything.
Pull that back. Aim it.
Don't mess up.
Dude, I'm going to place all of them.
Ready to fire. Pull the lock back. Oh, there you go.
No, I
Put it on your shoulder and aim it.
Killed it! And with bullet.
You've got to clean it. So then you would just say, Sergeant, first sergeant, got to clean my weapon, and they'd let
Time
you fall
out,
out.
guys! I need to clean this.
Air shot musket. Get hit anywhere with that.
That bird's trying.
They got the bird. No, I mean you. That's intellectual property.
Drop a little bit on that.
Oh, really long.
Go. 157 caliber ball and 3 36 caliber balls on top of it.
It's like a shotgun.
So it was like a shotgun. So they'd wait for him to come in at about 50 yards and then hit him with that.
Did they ever throw like nails and anything down there?
Not in the muskets. Cannons are there. And I've been on artillery crews too, and I've helped man a 12-pound Napoleon and a 3-inch Parrott rifle. They have an effective aimed range of 2 miles.
Wow.
You could hit a car at 2 miles. No problem. Bang their weapon on the ground to seat it. They didn't even pull their ramrods.
That's pretty cool.
So they bang their rifle a couple of times on the ground, and they would pull it up and shoot it. And it would have been seated because the English bullets were .567 and the American ones were .577. So there was a 100th of an inch difference, but it was enough to make it so that the bullet would seat without having to ram it. And when it comes out, it doesn't go as a spear. It goes as a helicopter.
Holy crap.
So it comes out and then it instantly starts going like this. And And you can imagine it hitting a line of men square like that, right?
Take out multiple guys. The battle of what?
So basically what I've got on is the equipment that I would have had, other than a blanket roll, and I didn't bring that tonight. There, and my wristwatch. Oops. But General Jackson at the beginning of 1862 ordered that none of his men could carry tents. So when you go to a reenactment and you see fields of white tents, the canvas tents, on the Confederate side, that never happened. Not here anyway, in the valley. That was mainly if you were garrisoned, which means if you were in place, fortifying a position, then you might see some tents. But General Jackson gave orders to send all the tents back to Richmond. The men were only to carry what they could. So, blanket rolls, haversacks, canteen, bedroll.
Why was this?
So they could move fast. The battles that happened in 1862 here in the valley that were commanded by Stonewall Jackson are still studied today by military colleges. The way that he executed and strategized the battles here in this area showed that a smaller force could dominate and outmaneuver larger forces. And so those tactics are still being studied today, and officers still learn how to do that kind of thing. The men became so quick at marching, they became called General Jackson's foot cavalry, because they could move almost as fast as the cavalry could, which is pretty quick. They could do 30, 40 miles in a day. That's a lot of hiking, especially when you're carrying a 10-pound musket and another 10, 15 pounds of gear on top of that. So you can wear out your brogans. These are brogans. It's the shoe of the day. They're falling apart, but they're put together by wood pegs. And they're not very fun on asphalt. It's like walking on ice. But and you don't get a lot of traction with them. Some men would put nails in the bottom of them so they could get traction on the fields. A lot of the clothing was homemade for the South. And that was because the North had blocked all the ports. So we weren't getting any supplies in, so we had to make everything ourselves. So we'll just go through. You're going to be doing mountain band experiences, which they may be using percussion cap black powder weapons, and they may be using flintlocks. Depends on the time period. The difference is this invention. This is a cap, and on the inside of it is a little drop of fulminated mercury. And when you hit fulminated mercury with a hammer, it explodes. So this is the hammer, and that goes on the nipple of the rifle. And let's get it out of our system. That's what it's called, and so the cap goes on there. The powder charge goes into the barrel. The powder sits right here. The bullet seats on top of that. And when the hammer hits that, the spark goes down this tube into the chamber where the powder is, ignites it, pushes the bullet down the barrel. Pretty simple, but very effective. This is an English 58 caliber rifled musket. It shoots a 58 caliber ball, which is about the size of it. It's about the same as a 20 gauge. And the great thing about this is it's rifled. So it shoots the bullet. And you know what rifling does to a bullet? Makes it spin. And what is the benefit of a spinning bullet? More accurate, greater distance. So they started out the war with smoothbore muskets, which means you put the ball down inside and you point it in the direction you want it to go, and you hope it gets there. It had an effective range of about 100 yards. So about here to that Millbrook sign. It's about 100 yards. Is that Millbrook? No. Admiral Byrd. It's Admiral Byrd sign. Yeah, so that's why they had to have large groups of men in these giant formations. And they would stand face to face and they would shoot at each other. Well, then the rifled muskets came along. And now you're doing the same formations, but way more accurate and way more deadly. So that's why the casualty counts went way up in the battles. So you went from the Revolutionary War battles where you might have 100, 200 guys get killed to a Civil War battle where tens of thousands got killed because they're doing the same tactic. And the reason they would stand there for the smoothbores is because when the bullet comes down the barrel to go out the muzzle, it's bouncing. So when it goes out, it might go this way, it might go that way, it might go up, down. You just never knew. So it would get out after a certain distance, and then it would just veer off, and you never knew what you were going to hit. Not true after First Manassas. And by 1862, all the Confederate Army had gotten and acquired rifled weapons. So,
did the North have them before that, or
North
was
had them
it
before that.
an equal kind of balance in terms of they both got them at the same time, give or take?
give or take, neither army was really ready for the war, but the North was more ready. They had the Springfield Armory, which made the same kind of weapon, but it was called a Springfield, and it was rifled. The South didn't get them until we captured a huge depot of them in 1862. We captured, and when we were winning battles, we would drop our smoothbores and pick up the rifles after the battles. But then in 62, we captured a huge depot of tens of thousands of these, and everybody got them. I'll run you through some of the fire making skills they had to have.
Oh, cool. Thank me later.
Okay.
Can you sit down? Sit down. I don't want to. His hair. Surprise.
So you notice I have this belt on. And this belt is very important, especially if you're a mountain man.
You're not Batman.
One, it has your knife. Knives were very important. Most of them carried more than one knife. I have a pocket knife, I have this knife, I have my... So I've got at least 3 types of blades on me. Knives are your life, so you've got to have a good blade. This next little pouch is what's called a forage pouch. So it folds down, and then it opens up. And let's say I see some berries, and I want to pick berries, so I'll load up my little bag with berries, right?
You want a purse? At Goshen, the wine berry?
Yeah, you want a purse?
That's what we need.
So that's called a forage bag. And then this is my fire kit.
This is my emergency canoe.
Okay, during the Civil War they had matches.
Closer?
Steven, you mean
Yeah, why don't you guys come in? Matches. Okay. That's what they call
because
them.
the devil was associated with fire?
Yes. That's exactly what it was.
I like it.
So, devil, fire, matches, Lucifers. Okay, but in the 18th century, up until about 1840, no matches. So they had to start fires with magnifying glasses. They just called them a lens. So you have your lens, which is covered with the cap. And then you've got your flint and steel. All right. So this is making the spark, but you need something to catch the spark.
I think it's really like your band.
So one thing that they used was let me get my gawking knife out.
That's how
Yeah.
like the Portugal story.
So This other bag is called a bag of tow. Back in the day,
Because you chop your nice toes off.
back in the day, they
Make a
had.
necklace.
If you were walking along and you found material that you would use to start fires with, like these birch trees, these river birch trees, this stuff is like awesome stuff to carry in your pack. It's like parchment.
It's better than paper.
Oh, it's better than paper because it's soaked in birch oil. And so when you light this stuff, it burns like gasoline. Pine pitch, sap from pine trees,
Wood juice.
cedar bark, cattail, dried cattail. So whenever I'm walking along and I find something that I think I could use to start a fire with, I put it in my bag of tow. So this is in tow with me, and it's used to start fires. And this bag's
Gasoline.
treated a little bit with oils and waxes so that it will
Keep it like
keep everything dry more or less. Then there's this other stuff called fat wood, which is from pine trees, and it's soaked in. No, can't really smell that, but it's from the pitch that's in the pine trees, the turpentine, the sap. So when a pine tree dies, all the sap that would come out of the tree goes down into the roots. So you dig those roots up and you cut those up. Now I have wood that is totally soaked in pine pitch and turpentine. And this is an awesome fire starter. Fire is life when you're out in the wilderness. Okay? You gotta be able to have a knife, and you gotta be able to have fire. If you have a knife, you can build shelters. If you have fire, you can cook your food, boil water. You're set, right? So another little thing that they carried, which is what this little tin is, okay?
charcoal.
And this makes char cloth. Okay, so I can take natural fibers like grass or punk wood or whatever,
And just
cotton,
coat it in,
and I can,
it in the
yeah, so I load it in here, and then I put that in the fire, and there's a little hole here, so see, and this is just wax to keep it all dry. So I put the material I want to char into this tin, and put the tin into the fire, and it'll start to smoke. And maybe a flame will come out of it. But then when the smoke goes away, the material inside is charred. You don't open it up right away, because if you do, it'll instantly burn up and disappear. So you let it, pull it off, and you let it cool. And then once it's cool, now you've got this stuff called char. And char is used to start your fires. Okay. So, for instance, I find that so you could probably pull a lint from your belly button. Well, but you know what? If you didn't have lint and you had a knife and you were wearing blue jeans, you take your knife and you real gently scrape across your jeans, you'll get a pile of lint that you can use to start a fire with. Okay, so this just real quick. I'm not going to make a real awesome bird's nest here, but you want to make a bird's nest. You guys know what that is?
yeah.
You've done that before? Yeah. Okay. So this is just to catch the spark and show you. Then I'm going to take my char, and you're going to put that right in an area like this to catch the spark. Right? So you're going to hold the char and the rock in your flint like this. It doesn't have to be flint. Around here you can find quartz. You know what quartz looks like?
Yeah.
You can bang two quartz rocks together, or if you have a piece of steel, you can. There we go.
Whoa.
So we got that.
Hey,
We
that's
got
pretty
that.
good. What?
That was fat.
I didn't see the steel. He's probably done this a few times.
So you get the idea, right? If I had a big bird's nest, I'd be able to catch all that spark, and we'd have a fire. I guarantee you. And I can beat people with matches usually.
That was pretty fast.
Yeah.
I think you'd be able to beat me with a lighter. Lighter and some gasoline. Oh, dude. Like,
So anyway, you get the idea.
Brad, right as you're about to blow up the can of
So I
gasoline,
can.
it's got like a huge bonfire.
By the way, they don't call suspenders back then. They were called braces.
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 So, Are braces called suspenders? Teeth suspenders.
Yeah, teeth suspenders.
It's called losers.
The other piece of char that I have, and this has actually been made from. See, and I've got it so that it's just little teeny
Actually.
pieces of cloth,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
you don't even need all of that. You can just use a little tiny piece. Where'd my steel go?
Yo,
There it is.
yo.
That'd be a catastrophe. Alright, so same thing. Same thing. You're just gonna want to catch a spark.
Oops, kind of windy.
It's alright. It'll work. There we go.
As soon as you catch the spark,
Did you catch the spark?
You put it in the grass and light the field.
The reason this was invented like this is for, it was for pipe smokers. So they would have their pipe and then they would shine the magnifying glass in there and light it up
Maybe that's why they call it that.
before they had matches.
Steven,
Yeah.
what if you got two magnifying?
And it's clamped down, so it's got a piece of flint between two pieces of leather holding it tight in this clamp on the hammer. And the idea of the flintlock, a lot of mountain men use flintlocks, is that the flint would come down, strike the frizzen, which was a flat piece of steel, and as it did, the frizzen would fly up, opening the pan to the sparks coming off of the flint hitting the steel. The sparks would go down in the pan, light that instead of this. Instead of a cap, they had the powder in the pan. The pan would go off. Then that would light the chamber, and then the gun would go off. So you have this delay.
So you have to hold it like levels.
So a lot of men, when they were in the Revolutionary War, or they would turn their heads. And that was actually part of the command was when you went to fire, the men were instructed to do this. You would point it in the right direction and then do this. Because you've got this big explosion happening right here. If you're right here, you're going to eat it. All of it. It's going to go off right in your face. So, it's pretty cool. If you get a chance to shoot flintlocks at this camp, you're going to really like it because it's going to go, it goes, foof, boom. So you get this explosion and half a second later the gun goes off. Maybe not even half a second, but it's like, whoosh. It's really cool. It's one of the reasons why I got into doing living histories and such is because my family was so involved with the war that this guy, his name was John Bull. My name used to be Bull before the war, and then afterwards they changed it. So
Bull, B-U-L-L?
B-U-L-L, yep. And he was in the 58th Virginia and died taking Culp's Hill away from the Federal Army. My family fought in the 7th Virginia Cavalry with Turner Ashby. They were there when he was killed at Port Republic. Most of my family fought in the 10th Virginia. My third great grandfather, his brothers, a couple of cousins, they all enlisted together, and that was pretty typical. So when the call came out that Virginia was raising troops, my family all went to a place called Connor's Store, and they all enlisted. And I've actually seen the enlistment rolls where they all signed their names and joined up. Later, I had two other great uncles who were conscripted. So they didn't do the draft, they just came in and said, "You're going, fall in." And if you didn't, they just shot you right there. So it wasn't a matter of choice for a lot of guys. A lot of guys went in because they wanted to, some didn't because they felt like they needed to stay home and be with their families or take care of their farms. And as the war progressed, they needed more bodies, so they didn't give you the choice to stay home.
And what was that word?
Conscription.
Conscription. Means you're going.
It's different than the draft. Kind of like a draft. It's got a little more harsh tone to it. The North did a draft, so they allowed you to be drafted, and then you could get out of your draft if you paid somebody to take your place. Good luck with that. But a lot of the rich people did. It became a poor man's war, like most wars.
Most of your family fought from the South. Did any family, the Civil War called the Brothers' War, did any of your family fight for the North?
My dad's family, they're all from Virginia. So we've been in the valley for 262 years, since it was discovered.
Wow.
My family moved in around Newmarket, 10th Legion, that area, Rockingham County. That's where they lived and farmed. And then my mom's family is from Connecticut, in Vermont. So they're the Smith family church, same family. And yeah, some were officers. We had one, his name was Lot Smith, he was an officer. Abraham Lincoln commissioned him, an officer. We have the actual papers that were signed by Abraham Lincoln. We have his service sword, his captain's sword, and his pistol from the war in our family archives. It's pretty neat. I've actually held them, looked at them. Very, very special. But he did wear blue, so
It's okay.
guess we'll have to talk about that when I get to the next life. But everybody had their allegiance, right? Virginians, for Virginia was their country. It wasn't so much about the South as it was defending your home. A lot of the men, when they heard the Northern armies or Union armies were coming, there wasn't insurance back then. The only insurance you had was this. The only way to keep people off your land was to fight them. And so my family weren't slave owners, didn't care about that. They farmed their own land, worked their own land. They didn't have any slaves. So nothing dark or sinister there about that. And very few people in the valley here did. This was settled by German, Irish, and they believed in working hard themselves. Most of the slave owners and plantation owners lived in southern, southeastern Virginia. So, for us, it was about defending the Commonwealth, defending the valley. And so, I've been studying this. I've been doing living histories for about 20 years. And I've worked with several national parks, Sharpsburg or Antietam. And I'll pause. In the South, we named our battles after the town. And in the North, they named them after bodies of water, so creeks or lakes or whatever. So they call it the Battle of Antietam after Antietam Creek, and we call it the Battle of Sharpsburg after the town of Sharpsburg. First Bull Run, we call it First Manassas. We call this 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Winchester. They call it 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Opequon Creek. We call it the Battle of Belle Grove. They call it the Battle of Cedar Creek. So, different ways to name their battles and keep track of it. Just the way the two sides did it. So I'm always correcting people. Forever correcting people. Because everybody wants to call it the Battle of Antietam from here. It's not for us.
For us, true.
Yeah, I say us, and I always speak in first person because I've been doing this so long that that's how I think about it.